Live. And we are. Now we're live.
Okay. Hey, we're live. And we're starting in just about 1 minute. So we give everybody time to join. And while we're doing that, yeah, feel free to grab a drink or coffee, depends on which time zone you're in. Now it's 8 o'clock Central European time. Welcome, everybody. I am Bastian, and this is Francisco, my colleague. And we're here today to give you some insights on flowcharts, but we only use the term or the topic of flowcharts as a carrier to show you some insights and pro tips, what you can do with a draw.io and how you make your life easier.
We will be taking questions because after half an hour of you showing us all the pro tips about flowcharts and us becoming major experts in this field, we can answer those questions. So please use the YouTube chat now, or if you're watching the recording, use the comment field and we will answer your questions within the next couple of videos or webinars. So just feel free to comment and share all your thoughts and questions. We're happy that you're here and enjoy the webinar. Basti, this is your stage now.
Yay! So, here I am. One more thing before we start, what I'd like to mention up front is you see my sample screen here. And a few of you might have already recognized that this is a Confluence Cloud page. Of course, you're all familiar with the fact that we are offering draw.io for all Confluence deployments, so Confluence Cloud, Confluence Server, and Confluence Data Center. Today we take a page, or we show you the examples in draw.io for Confluence Cloud, but the features and the functionality is the same in all of the three deployments. They might look a little different, but you can always make possible what we are showing you today and recreate the results. So without further ado, let's just dive into it. And as you see, I have a lorem ipsum page here. And to insert the draw.io diagram, everything I have to do is go to Confluence Edit mode. And for example, I like to insert the diagram here. I told you we are going to deal with pro tips, so we just dive right into it and we go to the editor right ahead, but we have to insert the macro anyway. Just to say it real shortly, we deal with a draw.io diagram, so we create a new diagram from scratch. You can also embed a draw.io diagram if you want to refer to an existing diagram and just embed it here and it gets synced with the original diagram. Or for all the Confluence Cloud users, you can also use the draw.io sketch macro. We won't cover that in detail today. Maybe if we have enough time in the Q&A, we can do so. But we also have a link in the description if you're interested in the new draw.io sketch macro, which has some kind of whiteboard functionality with a reduced editor. Feel free to visit this link, which redirects you to our blog, and you can get all the features right away. But let's choose the draw.io diagram, so create it from scratch. And I think this is the screen that you all are familiar with, meanwhile, because you are already using draw.io. This is our template manager, and I don't want to get into detail here. The only thing that I want to tell you is, of course, I give a diagram name, type in a diagram name. What I want to show you here is this custom section that we created, and you will also find a link in the description. This is nothing that we cover here in detail as well. But I want to show it to you because this gets very important for all of our customers that are growing into the world of draw.io diagramming, that sooner or later you like to have custom templates that you like to share with your colleagues. And I show you how this could look like. For example, we have blueprints here. And we created frameworks for the Boston Consulting Group matrix that you may be familiar with, or a SWOT diagram. So everything that you need to do here, or even in the business model canvas is just start enhancing the diagram right ahead. You don't need to change anything. For example, with the Boston Consulting Group matrix, you can just take your products and services as shapes and you put it in on the field that you think your product or services is in, hopefully cash cows, but that's up to you. But for now, I just wanted to point with a blank diagram now. Created, and here's already the first pro tip, so to say, that I like to share with you, because before you start creating a diagram, you have a format panel right here, and before you have drawn anything on your canvas, the format panel relates to your global settings in draw.io. So just take a minute, sit back and think, what am I going to create today? Something that is my personal favor, because I like to have an infinite drawing canvas. I always take the checkbox page view out, and you see that this removes the boundaries, and I just have, if I move around the canvas, I have the feeling that I'm not limited in any way. For all of you that like the page view, it's more like a taste thing. Once you get to the border, the canvas will enhance automatically. So it's not that you are restricted to that canvas if you use the page view. It's just a personal thing for me. What is much more important here is that you, for example, if you have a diagram that doesn't contain any connectors, which, to be honest, around 80 to 90% of your diagrams will contain connectors. But if you are creating an infographic, for example, and you don't need them, you can go right along and take the checkbox connection arrows and connection points and deactivate them. And what happens now is that if I just insert a shape, and I maximize that real quick, you see that I don't get any options. Either if I hover on it or if I click at it, I don't get any connection arrows, I don't get any connection points. One very cool use case would be if you create a Gantt chart with a draw.io and you have very tiny shapes that you want to place inside your time frame. You can just do so, and you don't, for example, the example hit your connectors accidentally. But as we probably have connectors in it, and we will have them in our examples today too, is we check these boxes again. And always remember, especially when it comes to styling, you can also set global styles at this point already. So if you like to have rounded shapes, if you like to have sketched shapes, if you like to have curved shapes or curved connectors, you can activate it here, and you already you don't have to do that later on. So I think it's a minute well spent if you just think about what you're going to create now and yeah, adapt the settings here on a global scale. So let's get right into it, because I think now it's the time to get out to our pro tips. We have the topic of flowcharts today. And I think you all know that to create a flowchart, of course, we need the flowchart library. So let's activate that one real quick. Everything I have to do, maybe this was a little bit too fast, is I click on more shapes here, and then I get to our basic libraries that you have available in draw.io in general. And I have the flowchart library here already. Click at it to see which shapes are inside, and I say, that's exactly the library that I like to go with. So I set the checkbox here, and I hit apply, and you will see I have a flowchart library here. So I will expand this one, and I will collapse the general library because I don't need that one now. So here is the way that you're usually dealing when you create flowcharts, and I show you the standard procedure. We have the starting shape here, and you know we can either drag and drop or click to add it to the canvas. And what I'm going to do now, one more thing. You know that we can type in text here at any time, but we're not dealing with text today. Maybe with one or two connectors. I just want to tell you we are kind of ignoring the text option now, but it's very easy. You can always select a shape and just start typing, and it will be inserted. Now we have our start. Maybe I shouldn't type text, I should type start. And now we have our first activity, and to add this and to link it to the start, we just drag and drop it on the blue arrow that you see here. And we do that again. We can also at any time click on the blue arrows to just copy that shape. And at any time, at some time and space, we like to have a decision, drag it here, and we have another activity here. And depending on what is the result of your decision, if it's, for example, a yes decision, this will be the way to go, and at some place you will have a terminator here. Or if the decision is no, and I just add the text here too, then I will take this activity and the terminator will be this one. So this is the basic way of adding a diagram. But there are, of course, alternative ways, and this is what we are going to show you today. Before I'm going to show you this, I show you something that you might not know yet. If you have to If you have to change something around your diagram at a later stage, let me say, for example, this one is not an activity. This one is, let me take an example. This one will be a decision too. Let's go along with the decision. So I just take the decision shape and I drag it over the activity shape just to replace it. That's a very easy thing. Why do I show it to you now? Because we also have an alternative way to do this. And we're going to, I'm just going to show you that right ahead. So you see, here's my scratch pad, and there are a few shapes inside that are already prepared. And the first one that we're going to cover is exactly this. We create shapes with our keyboard. So hitting Alt, so for all of the Windows users out there, you of course use the Alt key and the Shift key. For all the people using Macs, you can hit the Option key instead of Alt instead. I think that's a normal thing, and you are used to that, but I want to say it anyway. So everything that we have to do now is just to insert our start shape. And now I just select it, hit Alt and Shift, and now I use my cursor keys to quickly create shapes this way. Maybe I go back because this should be a decision later on, and I go along this way. And once I did that, now I have my basic structure. I know that this is going to be a decision. And I do the same thing with my replace feature that you just saw. I drag and drop it over it. And now here's the alternative way. This is going to be an activity. This is going to be an activity. By the way, to select it, I just push the Shift key, and then I can select multiple shapes. And all I have to do now is go to the process shape. I hit Shift again, and I click at it. And now all these shapes will be replaced too. So I don't have to drag them over the other shapes necessarily. I can also do this from the library just hitting Shift. And here we can do the same thing again. So hit Select again to select both of these shapes. Go to the Terminator, click Shift, or hit Shift, click on the shape, and they're replaced too. Of course, this is not a start shape any longer. This is an end shape. And now we're getting to something that is even cooler. So what we can do, this is what we just did, by the way. I skipped that part, sorry. We have even a second alternative way. And I'm pretty sure that you might not have even have heard of this one. So what we just did is we created our basic structure, but we had to replace these shapes after we created our flowchart. What we're going to do now is replace it while we're doing that. So enough talking. What am I mentioning with this? We skip the text for now. So what I do is I push Alt and Shift again. I use my cursor keys to get the next shape on my canvas. Now I release the Alt key and I just say, okay, that's an activity here. I push Alt again, use my cursor keys, say this is going to be a decision, hit Alt again, use my cursor keys, release Alt, so you probably get it. Click on the shape while I'm still pushing Shift, hit Alt again, and so on. And I do the same thing here, so you see how fast I am doing this. And this way we just created our flowchart using more or less only our keyboard. We just needed the mouse for the first initial shape. What you probably see now, and this is this is our next pro tip or pro tips that we are sharing with you. If you compare, for example, this flowchart with this flowchart, you are going to see that the diamond shape, which is the decision shape, has a proportional size here, which you can also see in the Arrange tab, that it's 60 point and 60 point in width and height. Here, this is different. It's 100 point in width and 60 point in height. This is because when you do it, when you create the flowchart with your keyboard, draw.io always takes care that your flowchart is in shape, that it aligns with all the other shapes. So you see they all have the same height. And this, of course, causes that this is a bit more wider than it possibly should be. What you can do now, of course, you don't have to delete that or anything else. You can just select it, and you can just change the settings to be 60 point in width and height. What is not so cool about this one is that now the connector does this, and I don't want it to be like this. So what I can do now is just change it again, but that's not a very easy way to do so. So here's the cool thing about it, and here's our pro tip. I get back to the initial status, and what you can do is you select it. Now you push down the control key, which is the same key in Windows and Mac. You push control, and now you just change the width, and you see you will resize the shape, but the shape keeps on being centered. So you don't have to adapt any of your connectors afterwards. And what you can also do, and this is also cool, you can, once you adapted your size to be proportional, you can hit Control and Shift to have a proportional and centered resize in case that, for example, you need more text for your decision shapes or for any other shapes that you have. And now, once I reach the size where I say, this is okay, this is cool, I can now do the following. Of course, this decision shape is also a little bit off shape. Do I have to change, to do this change for all of my decision shapes? No, you don't have to, of course. What we do now is we select this shape that we just modified. We go to the Arrange tab, and here is an option that says Copy Size, and we do that. And we can just go to select this shape, and we say Paste the size. And then you will see that the size will automatically will be adapted. You probably have to adjust the connectors a little bit or reposition the shape, which is okay, but it's far less. You need far less time than if you change the size for every of these shapes. So this is something that is very important, especially if you have very large diagrams, and this will be very handy. So what I forgot to say, I just created them and I did not use them, sorry, but now I do. Here they are. So later on in the video, if you're seeing that, here is our overview of hold down the Control and Shift key and so on. Okay, let me just see what else we have on our list. What I also like to show you is in draw.io you can create basic styling settings right at the beginning. And to show it to you, maybe we get a blank canvas. I just insert, maybe let's close, or we can use the Flowchart library anyway. So I add this shape to my canvas. And me personally, I like the styling to be a little bit more wider than the standard use case, which is, by the way, 1 point for the general shapes. So if I insert that now, that would be 1 point of the line thickness. With the Flowchart library, it's already 2 points. So let's pretend that we just used the general library, and I like to change the line settings now, and I make this a little bit bigger. And everything I do now will be reflected in the line width. So if I add another shape, this will also have 2 point in line width. So the basic styling settings can be done at this point already. And this also has an effect on your connectors, which is probably the most important thing, because if I now go to connect these two shapes, and I don't like this kind of arrowhead, so I want to change it. And of course, if I change the line thickness of the shapes, I also want to change the line thickness of the connector to match it. So here I also increase the line thickness, and I don't want to have a sharp lining. I want to have rounded edges. If I have, in this case, it's the straight connector, but if you have, if you later on have something like this, you will see that the edge will be round. And I want to have a different arrow end like this one, and I want to have it not black but a dark gray, because I love dark gray. And from now on, everything you do, if you create a new shape, which I'm just going to do with the Alt-Shift option, you see that the setting that I just had for my connectors will be taken over to the next connector. So if you do this at the beginning, you can save a lot of time. I know that it's not always possible to do everything, to do it right ahead, because sometimes you maybe use a different kind of connectors or different kind of coloring, etc. So here's another pro tip that we like to share with you, and let's go back to the first page. We do offer in draw.io an option that is called select edges and select vertices. You go there via the menu bar, edit, and then here you can select vertices or select edges. In this case, we select the edges because we want to change the connector styles. And once we hit that, you see that I only selected my connectors. And now I can do a bulk change of everything else, of all the connectors, which I just do now. Rounded and dark gray again. And there you go. And of course, you can do the same with edit and select vertices. So now I selected only my shapes. I could now say all of them should be orange, which wouldn't make sense very much, because especially in flowcharts you like to use coloring to just point out which shapes are, for example, a start. The start is always green, the end is always red because it's a terminator. And me personally, I always color my decisions in orange and my activities in blue. And I already saw that I just skipped a terminator. So you see, especially when it comes to coloring, you're pretty much done and you're real quick doing this. Okay, when it comes, we have 9 minutes left. Cool, we can cover more of features. I have some features left. We can cover the Scratchpad, which is also something that I am using on a daily basis. You see that I have custom shapes in here that I created. The Scratchpad is your personal individual library. So we are always talking about libraries that are available and visible to your entire staff in the company. And we're talking about one individual library where you can where you can put in all of the shapes that are only valuable to you. So this is what I did here, and I tell you real quick how to use it. I just create a super fancy shape, which is probably not that super fancy, but let's pretend that it is. And I have a custom lining here, and the lining is ultra thick because it's very, very beautiful. It isn't, but yeah, anyway. And I will call this Bastian's super shape. And yeah, the text is not that big, so let's enlarge that a little bit. Yeah. And now I'm at a stage where I say I want to use that specific shape over and over and over again in every diagram that I create. So what I'm going to do now to save time in future diagrams is that I select this shape and I just go to my Scratchpad and I hit the plus icon that you're seeing here, and hitting plus, it will be added to my Scratchpad. So let's get back to our page 2, which is now empty. And everything I have to do is just click it here and I have it. And what is even cooler is you can't only use that for single shapes. You can also, and again, our Alt-Shift special trick. I select all of my shapes now. I just used Control and A to do this. And now I hit plus again, and you see that the entire selection that I just created is added as a custom shape. So if we have a third page and I just click here, it will be inserted. This is very, very cool if you, and I guess you probably have that, if you have business processes that consist of, for example, different sub-processes, and these sub-processes won't change, but you from time to time have to insert these sub-processes into a new diagram just to show the relation. So you can save the entire sub-process and add it with just one mouse click to another diagram, and you save a lot of time. And by the time, and when I talk about, for example, a sub-process, we are already at a stage where we say, this is not something that is valuable to only you. This is valuable to your entire staff. And by that time, it might be wiser to say, let's not keep that in a Scratchpad. Let's keep that one in a custom library. And a custom library can be set up really easy. And a custom library, just as your Scratchpad, can contain single shapes, a subset of shapes, even images, and even GIFs. So it's a very versatile tool that you can use. And you will also find detailed links for creating custom libraries in Confluence Cloud, which is a little bit different than on Confluence Server and Confluence Data Center, but you will find links for both of them. Just to create your custom libraries, it's very easy. Everything you have to do is just click New Library. You give your library a fancy name, Bastian's library in this case. You save it, and there it is. And everything I have to do now is the same thing I did on my Scratchpad beforehand. So I have it selected, or still selected, so I hit plus, and there you go. And what you can even do is just like this applies to both. If you hit the pencil, you get to your edit screen, and you see that for these 4 shapes, I already provided search terms that you can search for if you go to your search shapes panel. So in this case, I say this one is Bastian's super shape, and once I save it and I'm searching for super, then you will see that this is part of my search results. So this is very, very handy to create your individual shapes, but also create individual shapes for your entire company that are valuable to all of your colleagues, to all of your staff. So I always encourage people to use custom libraries. The question that comes up from time to time is, as I showed you custom templates beforehand, so ready-made templates that you can just pick up and enhance it right away. When to use a custom template and when to use a custom library. I always tell people, if you have something that is basically like a framework, like a custom template that you can just pick up and start enhancing it, use a custom template. If you have more kind of that you use shapes over and over again, but they are always in a different scenario, different setting, that you have only parts of that and other parts you will probably not need, then create a custom library, because then you can just take all of your shapes that you need, connect them right away. Even the subset of shapes you can get to a result very quick. I just mentioned beforehand the Gantt chart example. One of our customers created his own library, which we also have a blog post for. I forgot to link it in the blog post, so if you're interested in that, please have a look at the video afterwards on YouTube, and we will add this link for the Gantt chart. They created a timeline frame in a custom library, the specific time period shapes, so they were able to see which task takes how long. They took a month pattern that they were able to overlay, and they were able to create their own monthly Gantt chart within 20 to 30 seconds. So invest the time to create your custom library, and you will save a lot of time. And you won't only save time, this will also enhance the quality and consistency of your diagrams. So that's always a part, and we encourage you to do so. Is a little bit off topic when we came from the issue flowcharts, but as we told you before, this was just a kind of a carrier for all the pro tips and insights that we wanted to give you today, and we wanted just to show you how do we use draw.io on a daily basis, and how can you profit from these experiences. So for now, I'm just looking at my sheet if I have anything else that I'd like to share with you. Oh yes, actually there is one. We have 2 minutes left, and I'm just going to show it to you. We dealt with the flowchart example for now on a level where we said create a flowchart, but this is only one piece of the cake. So you will always get to a situation where you created your flowchart, you save it back to Confluence, and maybe 2 days later you have a look at the Confluence page and you see, oh, I forgot a step in my flowchart. So what are you going to do now? You forgot, just to take this example here, you forgot to insert an activity right between this start, this activity, the blue activity here, and the end, the terminator shape. So what you're going to do now is just simply maybe create a little space between these two shapes. And what you can do now is just split the connector. So we insert another activity here, and maybe go back to our flowchart library. We take the activity and we hover over the connector until the connector turns purple, and we just release our mouse. And what happened now is that this shape is pretty ugly because it has still my individual format that I had in the previous example. So what I forgot to do is to clear our default style, which you can't see at the moment because the video is overlaying it. We just choose the normal dashed line, and we have a blue coloring here. Oh, by the way, like I showed you before, we just select this shape here, say copy size, and we paste the size, and we just adjust the connector a little bit. And everything we have to do now is just to provide an arrowhead here too. Maybe you don't need it if you split the connection. That's why it's not there per default. But now it's still connected, and you did not have to delete anything. So if you're working on diagrams and you need to enhance something, always remind of the split connector feature. This will also save you some time. So for now, I think that we're pretty much done. One thing that is left for me, because it's very important for us before we switch to the Q&A session, we always like to encourage you. This is our first webinar today. And of course, this is a topic that is it has a very wide purpose, and it serves a lot of value for a wide range. Everybody uses flowcharts. What is important for us today, and please write it in the chat or later in the video in the comment section, which are the topics that you would like to see on a monthly basis, for example, when we do the draw.io webinars. So please be busy, keep us busy. And yeah, we like to see which topics we cover next. And here is Francisco just
pulling you.
Getting back.
Oh no, I'm breaking everything.
He's breaking the whiteboard.
Okay. It's a little tight space here. So we have one question from our viewers. P. Meta from Orlando, Florida is asking, if I share my diagram with other users through Google Drive, can more than one person edit the diagram at the same time? If I have a diagram embedded on a Confluence page, same question.
Okay. I mean, in Confluence Cloud, we do have the collaborative editing feature. I think you are referring, or you're coming from a Diagrams.net, which is the open source version of draw.io. So we have collaborative editing in Confluence Cloud. Unfortunately, from a technical perspective, this is not possible on Confluence or in Confluence Server and Data Center. But in Confluence Cloud, you can edit a diagram with multiple users at the same time, just as you can do it in Diagrams.net. To answer your other part of the question, how you can share a diagram with users outside of Confluence, you have multiple options. The first one would be to export the file as an XML file. This XML is compatible with all of the draw.io apps for Confluence and Jira, and it's also compatible with Diagrams.net. So you can just open a Diagrams.net editor window and just drag and drop the XML on the canvas. And people can then, if they don't have access to Confluence, they can keep on editing and enhancing the file, save an XML, send it back to you, and you can just drag and drop it inside of Confluence, so your diagram is stored there too. If you embed a diagram, which the option is, you also have that option. I mentioned it before, that if you insert the macro, you can say embed diagram. You can also embed an existing diagram from Diagrams.net, of course. And this will be synced with the version that you have stored inside of your, for example, Google Drive. So it will be synced, yes, but you can't edit the diagram in Confluence. Same thing if you refer to a diagram that is stored on another Confluence page and you like to just embed it on another Confluence page too. Yeah. Does that answer your question, or did we get a follow-up?
Yes, he did follow up that he's using Confluence Server.
Okay.
So could you explain a bit why is it not possible to do collaborative editing Why is that the case?
The thing is that Confluence server and data center are operating behind your firewall, and it creates a lot of load. Our engineers have tried that multiple times. And the result, I'm not an engineer, to be honest. I tried to give my best to explain it to you. But the result was, from a technical perspective, it's somehow possible to also offer collaborative editing features behind the firewall. The thing is that created a lot of load, and it made the system extremely slow. And we decided to, of course, we wanted to offer it, but it's now worth to have collaborative editing if you have response times of multiple of 20 to 30 seconds and the system crashes several times. It's just a technical limitation that we are bound to, as we are acting as an app inside of Confluence, and we are bound to the restrictions that the macro technology is granting us. And that's why, unfortunately, we are not able to do that on these two settings. It just wouldn't be satisfying for you as a customer.
Okay, he has answered already. It makes sense. Thank you. And he says, I understand the reason why it won't work on server. I appreciate the responses.
Yeah.
I have another
You're welcome.
question.
Thanks for the question. Good question, by the way.
Yeah. I will not be able to pronounce his name right, but I'm still trying. It's Nanesh Bagangare, I think. Sorry if I didn't pronounce it right.
You probably didn't. I'm sure you didn't. Sorry.
But I did try. It's a B for effort. So he is suggesting that we, or maybe it's a she, I'm sorry, that we do BPMN next time as a topic.
Mm-hmm.
No specifics, just the basics. He or she is suggesting.
Yeah.
That's something. That we can
and anyway, to be honest with you, that's not a secret. When you go to diagram solutions, of course, the core use case is always technical diagramming and business processes, either BPMN 2.0 or UML or ERD, stuff like this. So we did not want to get too technical for our first webinar, but it definitely makes sense to have BPMN. So yeah, thanks.
Thanks also for the question of John Engelman. He's asking, it is difficult to select text on a connector unless it is zoomed in, which adds 2 more steps. Zoom in and zoom out after selecting the text. Is there another way to select the text?
Okay.
So specifically the text on a connector, maybe you can show.
Okay, I do not zoom in now because that would be
cheating.
This is exactly what you do not want to do. You can always double click and add text. What we are going to do now, sample text. And to edit it again, just double click at it, and you can say sample text 2. So it might be, it can be. I heard that from we just had a customer who switched to draw.io, and they also said they have problems selecting the text. What was the reason why they had problems was that their mouse speed was just too high. Maybe you can check if your mouse cursor settings. I know if you like fast mouse cursors, you probably don't want to change that either. But the problem with them was that to select the text, you have to double click at it. And they were not, they were just not calm enough to perform the double click on an exact spot. And this way they were never able to select the text. So maybe if you decrease your mouse cursor speed, that might be a solution. If not, we are always happy to assist. So please just turn, in this case, turn to our technical support, which you can reach via support@draw.io. And if possible, I know it's not always possible, but if you can provide, for example, a short video or even a GIF, that'll be great, because that will make it much easier for our engineers to just check on that. And of course, please provide your Confluence version and your draw.io version. In Confluence Cloud, this is pretty easy because it's self-updating. But if you're using server or data center, please also provide both versions. That will make it far easier for our engineers.
So fantastic news just in. Janesh commented that I did pronounce it correctly, actually.
Oh, okay.
However, the bad news, Marta said that I was not pronouncing his name right, so I did it wrong there.
Okay, we do our best.
You pronounce it like Meta, but it's Mata. Okay, so Marta, thank you. Yeah, do we have
we
any more
do learn
questions?
stuff too today.
Yeah, exactly. Could you just tell us real quick about the possibilities to do a demo for our enterprise and business users?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I can just go to our. You can schedule a web demo anytime. So I just go to our website, which is draw.io without the dot, draw.io-app.com. And here you have the opportunity, multiple opportunities, and you have it on our landing page already. Book a personal demo. And then this one is directly linked with our Calendly account. So you will either, depends on which time zone you're in. If you're in the European time zone, and if you take a world map, everything that is from Europe will be covered by me, and everything that left of Europe will be covered by my American colleague Colin. So we can cover nearly the entire day from a time perspective to make it convenient to you, that you don't have, for example, to pick a very early slot just to match our European business hours.
Okay, I already wrote it in the chat, so this is the last call for your questions. If you do have any, also Basti, if you would like to share a final tip or idea or something that you would like to share with us, go ahead. And otherwise, we would be really happy to hear your feedback, what we can improve, what you took away from today, and if you have any content ideas for us to produce. We have a huge library of YouTube videos. Maybe you check this out too. And we are also very happy to read your comments on our YouTube or on our Facebook or even on our LinkedIn channel. So please follow us there. And good news, by the way, just today we hit, just during this webinar, we hit the 1,500 followers on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Yes.
time to cheer. But
yes.
Another thing to cheer is that we just got a response from Gaudens, one of our lead engineers. Thank you very much, Gaudens, and best wishes to Switzerland.
Hi, Gaudens.
he just had an alternative. So we just told you we are learning stuff too today. So he just had a very cool tip. I wasn't able to read the entire chat because it's.
Yeah, maybe you can we can show us what he's suggesting. He's suggesting to John. Select the edge or rubber band, select around the label, depending on how the label was added to the edge, and hit enter to start editing. So select the edge or rubber band, and then hit enter.
Yes, see. Thanks, Gaudens.
Yep, and John already confirmed. Sweet.
I don't know.
That worked.
I don't know how long I'm using draw.io, and I never got to that feature. So thanks a lot.
Okay, so Gaudens, if you have anything to add, now is the time. Otherwise, we will be closing the feed in like 2 or 3 minutes.
I would suggest, because I mentioned it at the beginning, and as we have still some time left, I would just show you the sketch feature in draw.io for Confluence Cloud real quick, because I think that can be interesting for some of you too, at least for the cloud users or the people that are planning to move to cloud. So first, I'm just publishing, although it won't look nice now on our Confluence page because I got really wild. And the structure is horrible. Sorry for that. But let's just insert our sketch feature macro. And as I said before, we just hit / again and type draw. And now we don't create a new draw.io diagram, but we insert our sketch macro. And you heard before that this is a very reduced version of our editor. This is it. So this is more or less a digital whiteboard that you can use if you're in a meeting or if you just want to map out a brainstorming. So you still can, for example, click this option to get the entire shape library, or you can even use or go to our template section. And you, of course, can also expand our format panels. But per default, these are not expanded, and you can just, for example, use notes to just make real quick notes. This is more, like I said, to type down thoughts and concepts that you might work on in a business meeting. You also see that I pointed on the sketch mode that we also offer in the standard draw.io editor, but here it's per default the sketch mode. And but the same things apply to our sketch mode too. So if you like to connect something, just do so. And if you like to be more dynamic, just change the curve of the connector. And so you're pretty quick mapping down your thoughts. And once you hit publish, you can of course provide a name again, save it. And then just like the draw.io diagram, your sketch will be available in Confluence. And once you publish your page, then there it is.
There's 2 more questions. So
oh, yeah.
We will be extending a bit. But we said we will be finished.
It's all good. We
have
time until 9 o'clock Central European time.
So that's 15 more minutes. Could you do me a personal favor and show me again that magic thing where you do with the where the one shape comes up and then the next and the next? Could you show that again, please? How you did it, that it comes up like a video game? Because I think that's super useful. I'm not sure if everybody caught it.
Okay.
And while you prepare that, I'm telling you the next question is from Avaris, which is a woman's name and female name. Hi, how to merge shell of table? What does shell of table mean?
I think we also maybe we cover this question first.
Yeah, go ahead.
So in the menu bar inside of draw.io, you also have the opportunity to insert tables. So just like you probably know this feature from Confluence, where you have the same thing, you can just move your mouse to select a specific number of lanes and rows. So once you have that included, and I think what you mean with shell is if it's possible to merge, for example, an entire lane or an entire row, which is, I did not use this feature for a long time, to be honest. I know that there was, maybe Gaudenz, you can help us out again. I know that there was one thing. Oh no, sorry, I mixed it up. What I mixed it up with is that you can rearrange your rows, but not the lanes. This is something that has been requested for quite some time. And I think this is part of our public GitHub repository already. So there are requests that you can upvote. By the way, this is good that this question came up. We will share afterwards in this video. We did not so far, shame on us. We did not share the link to our public GitHub repository where you can issue your feature requests and of course can upvote already existing feature requests. So this is where we keep our roadmap and you decide what we are going to do next. So this sorting of lanes is one thing, but I think this is not what you were asking for. To be honest, as I'm not a native speaker, I don't know. Maybe you can give me another word for shell of table. If it's merging specific cells, if it's this, I think we don't have that yet.
In general, what's the benefit of doing tables in draw.io?
The benefit of doing tables in draw.io is, for example, that that tables in draw.io can act as containers. So you can even have, let's get rid of this one. You can, for example, use the amount of rows and lanes, and if you hit Control and click at it, you can have a cross-functional cross-functional table that you can use for flowcharts. So if you can have, for example, milestone A, B, C, D, and E, and as we're talking about flowcharts today, you can now take your shapes and insert them in this cross-functional flowchart, and you see there's a purple halo around it that will tell you that this cell in this row will now contain this shape, and even if you, for example, change the order, this shape will move along. And this is something you can't do a visual diagram or a visual table inside of Confluence. This is more for just managing text. But inside of draw.io, you can even visualize shapes inside a table, and this is where the added value of this table feature is.
Thank you for that.
You want to make it like Excel, yeah. Okay, I would say, I mean, you can at any time, like I already said, you can issue a feature request in our public GitHub repository. In the end, we do what you request. For now, I would say being like Excel, while Excel is more text related and draw.io is a visual tool. I would say I don't think that this is within reach of the stuff that we do as a core feature or would consider as a core feature. But in the end, you as a user decide what we are going to do. So if you would like to have more Excel-like features inside of draw.io, you can always try it. And if it's possible, and a lot of people say this is very valuable to us and we are willing to, for example, switch or move to draw.io for especially that feature, so it also creates business value, then yeah, we'll go ahead with it. So please always share your thoughts via GitHub.
Okay, so she answered, this is what I did. I use shape to cover shells. I think I should make an issue. Okay, so she will use the repo that we have.
Yeah, I think at this point it's also better for you to talk to our engineers, as we are from marketing and sales. I think on a technical level it's much easier for them to get to the core of your purpose and tell you if it's possible to realize that inside of draw.io.
Okay, thank you very much for everyone who hit the like button so far. There's quite a few, as we can see here. Thanks for that. I think there's plenty of you that enjoyed today's webinar. We will come to an end now. We will see you soon. Please send us your questions and comments below this video. We will read them all. We answer them most of the time, so please do that. And thanks, Basti, for today. You have the final words.
Thank you. My final words would be thank you, Francisco, because he of course he's too shy to admit that, but he set up the entire technical background today, because I'm not able to do that. So thanks. Without him, we wouldn't have the webinar today. But my final thank you is thanks to you. Thanks for attending, and thanks for using draw.io, because in the end it's you that help us improving the product each and every day. And we always are very curious to get your feedback. Even now, thanks for your feedback in this chat. And of course, if you're watching this video afterwards, and please leave us a comment on your thoughts. Go to our GitHub repository if you're thinking about feature requests, or if you have a feature that you always wanted to see inside of draw.io. This is what helps us progress and evolve. So my final words are thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.